HRN listeners. As we celebrate our 15th year, we are deepening our commitment to giving voice to the next generation of food systems storytellers, and we need your help. Our internship and fellowship programs help activate new possibilities for underrepresented and underestimated young people through experiential journalism, audio engineering, and production training. Through these unique programs, HRN helps food equity stewards build essential workforce readiness skills that expand their potential and foster economic mobility. Please consider supporting these critical programs. And with a minimum donation, you can be entered to win a dinner for two at an amazing restaurant in one of 8 cities and tickets to a concert at a great venue in one of those cities. We have incredible partners across the country who have donated, as they also share our passion for helping to educate the next generation of food systems storytellers. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. And make sure you donate before March 31st. Thank you.
I'm Ethan Frisch for Heritage Radio Network on Tour here at the Good Food Mercantile in Brooklyn, New York. This coverage is supported in part by the Julia Child Foundation for Gastronomy and the Culinary Arts. I'm really excited to be sitting with Ellen Lee Allen, who is a senior marketing manager at the ACME Fish Corp, a Brooklyn institution. Ellen, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So tell me, what is ACME and what is its history in Brooklyn?
So ACME is a fourth-generation family-owned company. It's been around since 1906, and it was started by Harry Brownstein, who was an immigrant from Russia, who was basically what we call a wagon jobber. He would sell smoked fish from a push cart and he would pick it up from smokehouses and sell it to appetizing stores. And then in 1954, he established a smokehouse with his son in Greenpoint, a few blocks away from here. And since then, it's grown to the largest smoked fish manufacturer. We're the leading manufacturer in smoked fish products. We do everything from cold smoked products, hot smoked, herrings, salads, etc. As Adam likes to say, if it's got fins, we smoke it.
And you came from a career in big corporate advertising. How did you make the switch to work for ACME?
So I worked in advertising for about 12 years, and I love marketing. I love, building brands, establishing them, growing them, etc. And I worked at some of the most sophisticated, companies like Procter & Gamble and Mars and so forth. But I've always loved food. It's always been my passion. So I went back and got a master's in food studies at NYU, and basically I wanted to combine my expertise in marketing with food and really, work in a category that I'm passionate about and that I think is extremely exciting, and it's it's an amazing taste, and it's everything that I've always wanted to do.
What are your thoughts on smoked salmon? What was it about ACME and their product line that drew you?
So I love the product. I think it's so delicious. It's like one of my favorite foods. I eat it, the traditional way with a bagel and lox and all the trimmings, but I also love to snack on it. We're also coming up with new product innovations that are exciting, that are not just for, your Sunday brunch. I just think it's the texture, it's buttery, it's silky, the smokiness, it's one of my favorite foods. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to work at ACME.
And doing marketing for an old company, an established company, one that's pretty closely associated with a very specific style of eating that you just mentioned, the Jewish appetizing brunch. How do you stay ahead of trends or keep up with trends? How do you make sure that a company like ACME is not left in the dust?
Right. So we listen to our customers, our consumers. We keep our ears open. We look at trends that are happening. We have our own research and development group that also, tests new ideas. For example, the poke, we have a smoked fish. We have our own version of poke, which is with smoked fish salmon instead of regular salmon. And that was something that actually started internally with one of our, I don't know if you know about Fish Friday. We have a Fish Friday outlet, and we have a Fish Friday specials every Friday. and Gary, who's in charge of that, was experimenting with making smoked salmon poke. And we saw that this was an emerging trend. So we came up with our own version of smoked salmon poke. So, it's a variety of factors. We, look at what's new, what's trending, what people want, what, people may not know they want, but find, desirable later on. So, and then we do a lot of taste testing, which is the most fun part of the job.
That sounds really tough. Would you walk us through the process of fish arriving at the factory? What happens? How does it get smoked? How does it get dry? Like what's that whole process from receiving a fish to a finished product?
Sure. So it's a very traditional method. We're doing it the way from the turn of the century. Obviously, we have improved our food safety standards, but basically, it's a very you have a few steps. When your raw fish comes into the factory, we process it. We fillet it. Then it goes into the curing step where we put salt on it, and depending on the size of the fish, it cures from a few hours to a few days. Then after that, we dry it and we smoke it. And the smoking, again, depending on the size of a fish, will take from a few hours to overnight, etc. In cold smoking, it remains at a temperature below around 70 degrees. When you hot smoke it, we cook it at a much higher temperature, and it actually changes the texture of the fish, so it becomes more firm and flaky. But basically, those are the main steps of making smoked fish. And we use our old family recipe that's been around for over 100 years.
I think there's a fair amount of confusion about lox as both a general term for smoked salmon and also a particular style. Is that right, of curing and smoking? Could you explain that?
Sure. So what most people refer to lox is actually smoked salmon. So lox is only brined, and it's very salty. Smoked salmon is actually cured, brined, and then smoked with we use a blend of American hardwoods. Smoked salmon is not as salty as lox. So when people refer to lox, they're usually referring to smoked salmon.
What are some of the craziest, most creative uses you've seen for some of your products?
That's a good question. Some people I don't know if it's crazy, but people sometimes use it as a salad topper, and you have the texture with the greens and the silkiness. It tastes better with the hot smoked salmon, I think, than the cold smoked. Crazy. I'm not sure.
Well, you have a new product that you're calling a smoked salmon candy. Is that right? Would you tell us about that and maybe walk us through the research process to come up with that new product?
So we have our version. So salmon candy has been around in the Pacific Northwest for a very long time. It's usually something that people brine it with brown sugar and then smoke it. So we were experimenting with our own version. We wanted to come up with a new snack product, for example, and we double smoke ours, which is different from other products that exist out there, and we use Atlantic candy, which has a higher moist content, so it's a little bit more succulent. So we were basically experimenting in the test kitchen in terms of, hey, we have this cold smoked product, and how do we improve it? So we decided to hot smoke it also. So that's how we came up with our version of what we call our candied salmon.
And what's the intended use? How do you expect people are going to be eating that salmon, the candied salmon?
So it's a great snack. We've been gobbling it up in the test kitchen, just, eating it by itself. Some people are using it as salad toppers. Some people are using it as a replacement for bacon, as a BLT, with eggs, on their protein bowls. It's really, the combinations are wide open for people to experiment with.
For the most part, you're primarily a wholesale supplier. You have products in certain stores, and you also supply some bagel shops and other places. Can you tell us a little bit about where to find your product?
Sure. Sure, you can find our products at, for example, so at appetizing stores like Barton and Greengrass, Zabar's. You can also find our packaged products at Whole Foods Market, for example, Kroger's, Citarella. I'm trying to think. Should I stick to the metropolitan area? So Stop and Shop, D'Agostino's. So any major retailer carries ACME products.
Have you had to, as you've expanded outside of the New York area and started to sell into parts of the country that may not have the same tradition of smoked salmon that we do here in New York, how have you changed or adapted your marketing to reach that wider audience that doesn't have the context that we do?
So that's a good question. For example, in the Midwest with Kroger, they were intrigued by our poke product. So they loved our poke product first, and then they started purchasing that. And then from there, they discovered that we also made smoked salmon and hot smoked salmon and all that. And then they started buying our cold smoked salmon and then branched into our hot smoked products also. So it's interesting that our newer products are sometimes the entryway to, as you said, regions where people may not have a tradition of smoked salmon as much.
There were, I think at the time that ACME opened, or in the early days of the company, there were a lot of companies doing similar things, supplying fish to appetizing stores when there were a lot more appetizing stores in New York. Most of those companies no longer exist. What is it about ACME that has that staying power, that has powered the company through the decades when other similar companies have not survived?
I think the owners will say it's a combination of luck, but I think it's also a commitment to quality. The company has we have very high quality standards, and we stand by our products. We love our products. We make sure, we taste test all our products. We make sure they're safe. Food safety is very important to us. So I think a combination of those things, our commitment to excellence, quality, food safety, has allowed us to survive while others have not. And we also invest back in our company. We invest in our research and development. We are very committed to the raw material and getting the best raw material possible. So I think those are, I would attribute those factors to how we have survived into this century.
Would you talk a little more about that supply chain? Where do the fish come from? How do you source your fish? And how do you tell that story to your customers?
So we look for the best raw material available, whether that comes from, Chile, where there's a lot of farm salmon, whether it comes from Alaska, where we get our wild products from, our wild fish from, or Ireland, where we get our organic salmon, for example. We're not, I shouldn't say we're not prejudiced against any one region. We just go where we look for the best raw material and we purchase it. We have relationships with farmers and so forth. So it's really, we just look for the best available fish, and then we source that and then make it into our smoked salmon product.
Some of my favorite smoked fish products are the other things, the whitefish, sable is amazing. Tell us a little bit about the non-salmon fish that you carry.
So our whitefish comes from the Great Lakes. It's wild also, and so as our sable. Our whitefish is sourced from some cooperatives, from indigenous cooperatives, from indigenous people. And it's our traditional method of smoking it also. There are no additives, no preservatives. We brine it in salt, and then we smoke it, and then, we have this master smoker who's been with us for decades. So it's really using traditional artisanal methods and carrying on that tradition, to make the product in the same quality that it was done. Our sable comes from Alaska, and I think it's one of my favorite fishes also. It's so buttery and silky. It's amazing.
What are some of the products that you carry that you feel like don't get the love that they deserve?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say our sockeye is a very good product also, and I think sockeye is not as popular as I would say our regular cold smoked salmon. Our sockeye just actually won a Sophie Award from the Specialty Food Association, and it's one of the best smoked sockeye products that I think are out on the market, but it's not as well known as the other products, I would say.
I tried some yesterday, actually, at the Fancy Food Show at Javits Center, and it's amazing. It just melts in your mouth, this amazing combination of smoke and salmon flavor, and really just beautiful. Well, Ellen, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Ethan Frisch, co-host of Why Food on Heritage Radio Network, and this is Heritage Radio Network on Tour. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.